This podcast is sponsored by SONOSTICS.com. At your desk, under your feet, our medical device reverses cognitive decline.
Welcome. Derek Rawson here. These are stories that I have done in my life. Well, today, this is episode 27 of my podcast, and we'll be talking about where the astronauts in Houston at NASA would gather to drink beer and have camaraderie. And what they chose was a place that was nondescript across from the Manned Spacecraft Center, across from NASA Road 1. And it was just a dive, as we say in the United States. In other words, a rundown cafe with no name. And we would all meet there. And they chose it because it was nondescript and it was a secret place, basically. And I'll tell you the name of it here in a second. Basically, it was an interesting place to be because you could talk to them about whatever was going on in their lives, all the astronauts. And they were very close because any one of them could have died at any point. They were all ex-jet fighter pilots, basically. Pretty much, and with a few exceptions. So they were used to high-risk situations, which they definitely were in. This is sponsored by SONOSTICS.com, which is below. It makes a external electronic device that you put under your feet that increases your blood flow to your heart and protects you from cognitive decline. In other words, hopefully you won't get Alzheimer's. That's what this is about. So if you're doing a short, if this is a short, look below. You'll see a click to the longer version of what I'm doing here. So to continue, the stories that I would hear in this cafe were pretty amazing. One of them from the guy who was responsible for collecting the astronauts in the ocean, in the Pacific Ocean. It was a very difficult job because it's so big, and they didn't know where the astronauts were going to land exactly. They had an idea. They kind of knew. But in the case of Apollo 13, it was an unexpected landing, and they didn't know where it was going to come down. So he had a very difficult job. And I made a film and a recording with him, and it was a pretty interesting conversation. And he was famous at NASA because he's the only man at NASA that ever said no to the President of the United States, who was Richard Nixon. Call sign Imperial. Nixon wanted to have a press conference when the Apollo 13 astronauts came back to, on board the ships. And he said, this is not a good idea. We don't even know how healthy they are. So you cannot have a press conference with the astronauts. So the answer would be no. So he became a famous guy for saying no to the President of the United States, and particularly President Nixon. And so there were all these great stories at this cafe. And the name of the cafe, finally we'll give it to you. If you watch the long version, you'll get it. It's called the Eagle, which is a kind of bird, right? B-I-R-D. It's the Eagle. So that was their name for it, was the Eagle. But whether it really had a name or not, the cafe, I don't think it did. It was just nondescript. So that is my story for right now, and maybe there'll be a little bit more. I'll tell you some of the stories that the astronauts told me about some of the things they were doing. And please help distribute this video for me on YouTube, and you can do that by, number one, subscribe. And when you subscribe, it's free. It just alerts you to my next podcast. And this is a podcast, is what this is. When you see the words, the letters EP 27, which is what this is, that is episode 27. And a podcast is an audio, and it has some video, okay? And today, by the way, you see my cup of coffee there. So buy me a cup of coffee is the website, buymeacoffee.com /Derek, D-E-R-I-K, Rawson, R-A-W-S-O-R, not N, and you can buy me this cup of coffee. And where I am, just so you know, is I am the Gods of Noah. I'm sitting out here at a sidewalk cafe. And this is the world's largest train station. I'm pretty sure it is. This is the train station that you use to catch the train to London. So kind of fun. And I'm just sitting out here. And so life is good. And oh, and I'm here. I'm gonna turn it for me. Here I am. So I do exist. I'm not just a voice in the ether. I'm a real person, hopefully. So that's me. And then back to my cup of coffee here. Oh, and I'll tell you what our sponsor does. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, they sell an electric device which works, and it's a medical device. It's a U.S. patent, and it works externally under your feet, and it increases blood flow to your heart, and makes life easier for your heart, and so you have better blood flow to the brain, and it can help you. So that's what the company does, my sponsor. And so please click on the like button if you like this. Make a comment if you would, if you want to ask questions or whatever. The more activity on this channel, the more YouTube distributes it to new people. So that's the game here. So help me out, and if you want to, make a donation to keep this channel going, because I'm going to be traveling around the world. I am traveling around the world all the time, actually. You can do that at Buy Me a Coffee. You can make a donation, or you can buy me a cup of coffee for $5, which is what this is. And yesterday, of course, I was drinking beer because I was going to go dance tango. So yesterday, you could make the choice at Buy Me a Coffee to buy me a beer. But this is today, and I'm back to espresso coffee, and so that's what it would be good this time. So I will see you soon, and I think I talked about everything. Yep. So this is the end of episode 27, and life is good. Bye.